that is day before yesterday when we ended with level forecasting. All the level forecasting we were trying to do by having what is the correlation curve, that is statistical method of forecasting. Now, CWC is doing both the things, that is both level as well as inflow forecasting. Today we will be seeing about inflow forecasting, the first part of it. The second part of it is about the real-time data, that is telemetry data, which is being used by Central Water Commission for getting the real-time data. So the first part I will be starting now is the inflow forecasting. As we have already seen level forecasting, we are forecasting the level which is expected to attain at a future time. In the case of inflow forecasting, we are trying to tell how much will be the inflow which is coming into a dam or which is likely to expected to reach a barrage over which the river will be the flow will be overflowing. So now we will be seeing the presentation on inflow forecasting. The forecasting of inflows consists of predicting the future volume The forecasting of inflows consists of predicting the future volume of water due to be arriving at the reservoir. This forecast employs the hydrological and meteorological data collected. So both statistical as well as mathematical models for simulating the functioning of the areas and river of interest, producing the volumes expected for the following days. All these things we will be doing by formulating an inflow forecast. So what we are actually doing is reservoir acts by giving advanced information, and we are trying to increase the timing of the peak outflow from the dam. So all these things are likely to be achieved by having a good inflow forecasting system. So what is inflow? Well, inflow is actually given by the increase in storage plus all the outflows. Outflows include river outflow through a spillway, escape regulators, power releases, canal releases, as well as losses such as evaporation loss, seepage loss, everything together. So this will give the inflow into the dam. Requirements from the project authorities. Project authorities have to supply us with the following things. One is the threshold limit for issuing the inflow forecast. This again is to be decided by the project authorities depending on the storage. So different levels in different months. Excuse me, yes. Hello. Different levels in different months. Then there should be downstream carrying capacity also taken into account. So when you are giving a threshold limit, you should take how much will be the limit downstream carrying capacity, as well as the design discharge of the gates. All these things have to be taken into account while deciding the threshold limit of issuing inflow forecast. Generally nowadays what we are seeing is that the threshold limit is given very low. That is, the requirement per day is given as the threshold limit. Actually, it is serving for both conservational purpose only, but it is not as per the flood angle. Flood angle ke liye, the inflow of 425 cubic in Tungabhadra Dam may not be a big issue, but 425 cubic is the minimum requirement that is required for their canal releases and other things. So they have given a threshold limit of 425 cubic for a big dam like Tungabhadra Dam also. So depending on that, they decide depending on the requirement, If they want for only how much release they have to make for the canals, that they are giving. Otherwise, if it is for flood, then they will see what is the downstream carrying capacity, and accordingly they give the threshold limit. Then the next important thing that we will be requiring is the area elevation capacity curve of the project. This is useful in calculating the instantaneous as well as the average inflows into the dam. So if we have the area elevation capacity curve, then we can find out what is the instantaneous inflow which is coming into the dam, as well as if you know for a period of time, maybe 6 hours, in 6 hours how much inflow has come, then we can see by seeing the area capacity curve as well as the outflows, we can get an idea how much of the inflow has come into the dam. It also gives volume as well as flow, which can be calculated using the area elevation capacity curve. So generally we require the latest area elevation capacity curve, and this should be based on the recent hydrographic survey, which is to be used on a regular basis. Yes, yes. Somebody.
किसको?
Yes. I think
all are requested kindly mute your mic, please. Our question answer session will be at the end of this session. Please don't disturb the speaker. Dear participants, please mute your mic. Don't disturb to our speaker. Our question answer session will be at the last of this session. Okay, sir. Start your, sir. Kindly continue.
The requirement of hydrometeorological data is the reservoir level. That is the most important thing which require from the project authorities. Then inflow, both instantaneous as well as average. Instantaneous means hourly, what is the inflow which is coming, as well as the regular practice of giving either 6 to 6 or 8 to 8. Different reservoirs follow different timings. Some people give it from 6 to 6 in the morning. Some of the reservoirs give 8 to 8. So accordingly, average inflow is also to be taken. Then outflow. Similarly, outflow, instantaneous outflow in case of spillway discharges or power discharges, and average discharge in case of canal and other losses. These also has to be informed on a regular basis to the Central Water Commission flood forecasting unit for formulating the flood forecast. Then we require also the rainfall, the actual rainfall which is occurring, preferably hourly or 3 hourly from the project authorities. So when to formulate an inflow forecast? Inflow forecast need not be formulated on a daily basis. Whenever the threshold is likely to be touched or exceeded, then we have to issue inflow forecast. Otherwise, it is not to be formulated on a daily basis, routine basis. Or when release from dam is expected to create downstream flood, well, the reservoir level is very near to the rule level for the month. So for this purpose, we require the rule levels. That is done by the project authorities, and they keep it updated based on the rule level for a particular month. When the release from the dam is expected to create downstream flood, then also we have to start issuing the inflow forecast. Or when the rainfall in the intervening catchment is very heavy with no major contribution from upstream boundaries. These type of requirements, we have to formulate the inflow forecast. Then how it is done? In the conventional statistical method, how we are doing is we are seeing the upstream river level and the corresponding discharge on hourly basis using stabilized rating curve. That means superimposed last year 10 years rating curve of a particular hydrological station which is upstream of the reservoir is taken, and from that we extrapolate all the readings up to its HFL, upstream river levels and the corresponding discharges on an hourly basis. This is required for having a good inflow forecasting setup, that is the upstream data. Then, as in the level forecast, we should know what is the travel time from all the upstream stations in different main river as well as in tributary up to the reservoir. So this again is calculated by means of how much time it is taking for the water to reach to the reservoir. Then intervening catchment area rainfall, if you have sufficient rain gauge in the catchment area. So this again we are collecting from IMD also. IMD also provides us with the intervening catchment area. Otherwise, they give the realized basin sub-basin averages, which we are taking it as a single unit and trying to run the statistical model. Then mean aerial rainfall by Thiessen method or isohetal methods. So if we have different subcatchments, different rainfall, then we can have a Thiessen weight for all these rainfalls, and what will be the average rainfall over the entire subcatchment will be taken into account. For the intervening catchment rainfall runoff equation, we require a good unit hydrograph or any rainfall runoff equation for routing the intervening catchment flows. And we should have also the base flow through base flow separation techniques in unit hydrograph. All these are required from the conventional methods. So here is how we are trying to do what is a conventional instantaneous and average inflow into a particular reservoir. So the corresponding, for example, I have taken 27th October 2020, what is the reservoir level and the corresponding capacity in MCM. This is taken from the area elevation capacity curve, and you know what is the change in capacity. For example, yes. इसको बंद कर सकते हैं. Hello. Sir, hello. We know what is the change in capacity for every hour, whatever is the change in capacity every hour. And if you know what is the outflow through river as well as canal and losses, then we have an instantaneous inflow directly. These are available in Excel format and directly it can be taken. So instantaneous inflow is like this, that is 469 cubic 705, and suddenly it has increased to 9,594 like that. And the average inflow for the last 6 hours is taken as 24,825. Accordingly, we can take 12-hourly average inflow as well as 24-hourly average inflow by having this type of calculation sheets, which is available with all the project authorities also, as well as we are also having, that is CWC is also having this type of tables, and accordingly we calculate what is the instantaneous inflow as well as what is the average outflow. Then for real-time formulation using the unit hydrograph, we are simply putting the hydrograph ordinates in the first row, and then what is the rainfall every hour, what is the rainfall, all these things are put, and the corresponding ordinates are drawn for each and every hour, which finally a total Q will give the inflow forecast for a particular date and particular instantaneous time. So accordingly we can take all these things, and then if we do the average of this, then we will get the average outflow, average inflow into the dam. And if you want instantaneous, then the particular value which is coming for that particular hour will be the instantaneous inflow into the dam. So formulation of inflow forecast. Modeling methods. In this, what we are doing is models to be developed by using modeling software, which is prevalently used. For example, in CWC, we are using DHI Mike 11 model. Not necessarily everybody will be using the same model. You can use so many other models. Heck is there. So many models are there. You can use whatever model you can use, but in CWC we are using the DHI Mike 11. Similarly, you can do any other models. Then input hydrometeorological data to be injected and the demarcation of structure at proper chainages on the river network is to be defined properly. All the structural formula or QH relation, that is discharge and height relation, should also be given as for outflow generation downstream. Then data series for inflows and outflows are to be created, and this should be used for comparison purposes also. Usefulness of the inflow forecast. Inflow forecast can be used for proper regulation of reservoirs. That is, we can reduce the outflow peak considerably, as well as outflow timing can be delayed. One of the prerequisites for integrated reservoir management for flood management that we are day before yesterday. What is that integrated reservoir management for flood management? Then this is also required for water regulation and conservation purposes. How much water you are going to release into the canals and other things based on the available inflow. That also they can decide by using the inflow forecast, as well as how much water you can store for the during the current spell of flood. So accordingly, you can decide how much I can store and how much I can release. All these things can be easily found out by using the inflow forecast. Then short range forecast is for mainly flood management, medium range forecast for water conservation, and seasonal forecast for water availability. All these things can be done. For example, in CWC flood forecasting angle, we are giving inflow forecast whenever any high flood is expected due to very heavy rainfall. The same thing we can use for medium range, say a 15 days or 1 month period, where we will require how much amount of inflow is likely to come during that fortnight or a month. Accordingly, they can plan for the future usages for irrigation or water supply or power generation, all these things. And as well as seasonal forecast for water availability. During a particular season, how much amount of water is likely to come into my dam, which I can use it for my future useful purposes. All these things can be done by using the inflow forecast. This is regarding the inflow forecast. Then the second part of it, I will be covering the telemetry. Now I will be covering the telemetry system. Now I will be covering the telemetry system installed by CWC. So the basics of telemetry is defined as a communication of measurements that were taken from some distant point. It is the science of obtaining quantities or making measurements from distant location and transmitting them to receiving equipment. A basic telemetry system consists of measuring instrument, sensors or detectors, data loggers, and transmission devices. Today, we will be mainly using for monitoring hydrometeorological, oceanographic, and medical data, space flights, and other things we are using. And in this particular context, we will be seeing about monitoring of hydrometeorological data only. So what we are having is an input device known as the transducer or sensor. So it is sensing what is happening, and then it is collected in a data logger or data collection platform. Then we have different types of transmission system. Whatever the data collected is transmitted to a receiving station. That is done either through satellite or through GPS, GPRS or GSM mobile phones. All these things can be used for data transmission. In CWC, we are using only INSAT transmitter. That is, we are using the satellite transmission mode only. We are not using the GSM and GPRS mode. Then there should be a earth receiving station and data processing software in case of satellite transmission, and a reception center in case of GSM GPRS data. So an automatic data collection platform, it is an automated version of traditional data collection system, and it saves the human labor to get measurements from remote areas. The specific configuration varies from equipment to equipment. The system report data in near real-time basis. That is, suppose if I want a data, it will be observed at that particular point, but it will be transmitted at certain selected timings only, which is allotted by ISRO and IMD. So in that particular transmission time, the data will be transmitted to satellite and then received in the earth station. So one has to wait for at least the timing at which the transmission is to take place. So sometimes it may be in the first 0 minute itself, but sometimes it may be in the 59th minute also. So 59th minutes, well, let's say you have to wait for 1 hour. In case if it is at 0 minutes itself, it will be coming immediately like a near real time. Otherwise, you may have to wait for one hour also for a particular data. So it is always called as near real time, not a real time. So automatic telemetric system has real-time measuring parameters on 24/7 basis. That means observations can be carried out at the exact time at which it is likely to be observed. Then it has greater accuracy as well as more reliable. Data resolution is also very high. For example, rainfall can be measured up to 0.2 mm or 0.5 mm without any error and other thing, because it is basically digital transmission. So you can get it very easily. Then you can collect any number of volume of data. So you can have in a single data collection platform, you can have even up to 12 sensors which can work, and it can be used to provide all the data from a particular point. And the interval for different parameters. For example, rainfall we can collect every 10 minutes. Water level we can collect every 5 minutes. Water quality parameters we can collect once in a day. All these things, different intervals, different sampling intervals can be taken. Generally, it is free of reading/visual errors. That is, parallax error and other things are avoided because the observations are taken once in three times, and the average is taken. All the three values will be transmitted. Lowest, that is first minute value, second minute value, third minute value. You can see all these things separately, as well as you can average out and get the exact reading for a particular time. And there is very little subjectivity. Always you can say that you have parallax error or some other error, your this thing is not properly adjusted to GTS. All this can be told. This will not be available. Then this is automatic message generation and transmission. You need not have to do any manual operation on this, and it is totally automatic. And you can archive all the data locally in the data logger itself for 6 months, or remotely you can keep it for years together by having a separate hard disk for that and going on saving all the data. You can keep it remotely also. And it is useful in harsh climate. Even in cyclone, we are able to get the data. Even for example, in Varda cyclone also, we were able to get all the data from Pennar Basin as well as from where the maximum intensity was there. All these things were collected by using this data collection platform. Main problem disadvantages are it has limited area representation, an area of 3 to 5 kilometers around the sensor site, and routine monitoring, that is maintenance, is very difficult. You have to maintain it properly, otherwise it will be having problems. Then you have periodic testing and calibration. Suppose if you are not testing for a particular parameter, then if the calibration goes, then you will get wrong data. So it should be periodically tested and calibrated. And the staff should be well trained technicians, and specialists also maintained. So generally, in CWC, we have got almost about 1,000 stations right now. So plan wise, that is, previously we have 5-year plans. So 9th 5-year, 10th and 11th and 12th plan, we have almost covered almost up to 1,000. And in the next 10 years, that is 2017 to 2026, we are planning to increase it by 225 more telemetry stations. All these are represented in the map, which is shown here. Then what we are doing is, we have 2 ERS, that is earth receiving stations. One is there in Delhi, another is there in Jaipur. So Delhi and Jaipur collect all over the country's data, and then they are disseminating it into various modeling centers which are existing throughout the country, like Bangalore, Sikkim, all this Varanasi, so many places all over the country. 29 to 30 modeling centers are there. It goes to all these modeling centers through VSAT network. This again is a VSAT network, is a separate network, which is a commercial VSAT network, which is provided by some of the companies like HCL, Comnet, or Z Television. All these people are providing this commercial VSAT, which is a licensed version, which is taken by MOC IT, and directly they provide what will be the bandwidth required for a particular thing. They will be providing with an antenna and other indoor and outdoor equipment through which the VSAT communication can be done. This is the 2 VSAT, one is for Jaipur, another is for Delhi. Then what it actually does is, it is transmitting to satellite and receives signals from the satellite. Then while sending, it is sending through a transmitter as well as through an antenna, and receiving also it is doing the same thing. It has a LNB, that is low noise amplifier, and then it is receiving all the data, and it is through an indoor unit. It is IDU, only the indoor unit. This is how the block diagram of a VSAT looks like. Then types of remote station. In CWC, we are maintaining 4 types of remote station. Type A means it is only rainfall station. We don't have any other parameter, we have only rainfall. Type B means we have river water level as well as rainfall. Type C is for reservoirs only, that is reservoir water level and rainfall. Type D means we have river water level, rainfall, and some meteorological parameters like temperature, relative humidity, evaporation, sunshine, wind speed and direction, which are useful for water resources purposes. We don't have atmospheric pressure in this, so we generally have all these things because we can get some relation and get what is the amount of evaporation and other things which is taking place from a particular point. For this, we are having type D, that is rainfall, water level, temperature, relative humidity, evaporation, sunshine, and wind speed and wind direction. So this is a typical setup of a rainfall. That is only rain gauge station. You can see it is a rain gauge is installed, and it is connected to a data collection platform. solar panel is there for providing power, and Yagi antenna is there which is communicating with the satellite. So it will be sending at a particular frequency to the satellite, and then satellite will send it back to the earth station at certain frequency. Then we have river gauging stations. In river gauging, we have what bubbler tubing is there, which is based on that is pressure. Based on the pressure, we are calculating what is the pressure head which is available above a certain bubbler point. Over that, what is the pressure of the water? Based on that, we are getting what is the height. Because of that, what pressure and heights are related, we are getting how much will be the height above the bubbler. And if bubbler is connected to GTS, automatically to the benchmark, and it is connected, the datum is taken, then we will have a water level above a certain point, and this is done by data collection unit with bubbler gauge. That bubbler gauge is having a pressure compressor which will be operated every hour at certain specified timings. Sometimes it is taking 3 minutes also, 3 times it will be taking to find out what is the average level for the last three times. But generally once in a while, once in a particular hour only it will be taking in most of the stations. And then we have a corresponding rain gauge also. All these are collected and stored in the data collection platform, and at the proper time in which it is to be transmitted, which is allotted by the ISRO and IMD, it will be sent to the satellite. Power backup is provided by the solar panel. This is the typical water level and rain gauge station, type B river gauging station. In the same way, we have a type C river gauging station or reservoir station. Here, instead of a bubbler, we have a radar also over the near the reservoir structure that is there, and it is connected to the DCU. Radar is activated at a particular hour, and then it takes the what is the depth of the water, and accordingly it tells what will be the level, what is the reservoir level at a particular point. Then rain gauge is there, and all these are transmitted through the Yagi antenna and the solar panel. In a similar way, we have river reservoir gauging stations separately, where there is a distance. The reservoir is far away and your rain gauge is far away. Then you can have a sort of a arrangement through UHF, that is ultra high frequency. You can have a line of sight transmission, and these two can be taken from two different DCPs, one near the reservoir, another near the rain gauge, and this will be used for site configuration for a distance located is more than 200 meters from the located through radio communication, line of sight communication. This is called the line of sight communication. There should not be any interference in between. No building should be there. No tree should be there. If such a type of arrangement is there, then you can keep two different DCUs, and these can be operated in tandem. Then we have type D water level and all weather stations, where we have both water level as well as other parameters like solar radiation, air temperature, wind sensor, all these things will be there, evaporation sensor will be there. All this will be coming to the data logger, and again it goes into the INSAT USB transmitter. You can take the data through USB drive or through PC or laptop, and you have solar panel, rechargeable battery, and other things. So once the data is observed and it is transmitted to the satellite and the earth station is receiving it, then we have a decoder, because the data is sent in the form of raw data, which is in codes. So this code will be decoded, that is a decoder will be there. Then this decoded engineering values will be in the form of a data viewer, where you can see what is the various parameters which are being observed. For example, I have selected some of the stations. So you can see that what is the, for a particular station, what is the battery value every hour, what is the rainfall value every hour, and what is the water level value everywhere. All these things will be coming on a regular basis. Once this data viewer, data decoder, and all these things are installed, you will be getting it in a click of a button, all the values. You can export this value to export the data to an Excel worksheet, and then you can start doing various other calculations like what is the average rainfall, what is the maximum rainfall, what is the river level, whether it is above warning level or below warning level. All these things can be found out, and whether the battery voltage is greater than 12. If it is less than 12, then you know that your solar panel is not charging properly. That means the battery provided to charge the solar panel is not working. That means you have to go and change the battery. All these maintenance parameters also can be seen by this. If the value is coming less than 12, then automatically you know that the battery is going to be a problem and you have to replace the battery at the earliest. So these are the various data loggers that we are using for transmission of data. So the most important things are data logger and transmitter. In case of GPS and GPRS, GPM and GPRS, we have radio modem. And Yagi antenna is used to transmit the data to the satellite. Then these are the various satellite parameters which are there. Then how we are measuring the water level. So water level measurements for river management purpose, and how we are measuring is pressure transducer with data logger. So we are using pressure transducer in the form of bubbler to get the data. So what are the advantages of this pressure transducer? It is quick and easy assembly, all weather resistant, no extra electricity is required other than whatever you are getting through solar panel, allows various water fluctuation. You can have any water fluctuation, automatically it records all these things because only pressure head is required above the bubbler. So generally this is the bubbler water level sensor. OTT is the company which is giving most of the water level sensor, and the power supply and other specifications and how much it is measuring. So one bubbler can measure up to 15 meters. If the range is more than 15 meters, you have to use double bubbler. For example, in a very deep site where the level is more than 30 meters, you have to use double bubbler. Two bubblers will be provided. One will be for between 0 and 15, another will be between 15 and 30. Suppose if it is more than 45, then you have to use triple bubbler. Like that, you can go on increasing. And the resolution is about 0.03 feet. And measuring interval, you can give it from 1 minute to 24 hours. You can start every hour, every minute also. But every minute, if you are using, then automatically after battery voltage will be going on dropping because the compressor will be working continuously. So we should make such an attempt that your compressor is also not working continuously. At the same time, you have sufficient data. So generally, we prefer hourly. So every hour we are getting the data. This is a typical look of the bubbler sensor. So what we are, how we are getting is, we are getting the measurement of tube pressure, comparison with the old pressure value, determination of amount needed to pump in cycles. Then we have atmospheric pressure reference measurement. Then pump and bubble out, measure the actual tube pressure. So this calculation will provide you what is the pressure of the water. So this can be changed into calibrated into the water level by having a calibration equation. Here, as you can see, this is the graph in which you are getting the calibration, and this is the atmospheric pressure and tube pressure. The difference of this will give you the water level. For this, all this calibration will be automatically done at the time of installation. This has to be recalibrated whenever there is any change in the bubbler or you are replacing the bubbler tube and other things. Accordingly, you have to calculate and recalculate and keep it the latest. Then, so what happens between the measurements? So there is measurement, then we get a standby, then again measurement. Measurement ka time we open, standby wall will be closed, and measurement will be all. What happened? Somebody? Radar level sensor. The radar level sensor also works in the same. Here it is a microwave radar. It works on the principle that contactless measurement of levels will be done by this. So radar level sensor, on impulse of radar technology, the transmitting antenna transmits short radar pulses. The separate receiver antenna receives the pulses reflected from the water and uses them to determine the distance between sensor and water surface. So in that way, you can get the contactless water level measurements. This is being done on almost nowadays all the places where bridge is there. You can keep a radar over that bridge, or if a reservoir structure is there, you can keep it there in such a way that it is not affecting the structure, as well as it is not the radar waves are not interfering with the structure walls. In that way, you can keep it and you can get a good water level measurement with radar, because it is contactless. Water is not having any contact with the sensors. So this is simply how we are going to get what is the water level of a particular point. So this is how it is being done. Then rain gauge measurements, as you know, it is done by a tipping bucket rain gauge. Tipping bucket rain gauge is again having digital recording. So automatically it makes the digital recording and you will be getting. And the most important thing is calibration of the digital rain gauge. This should be done very properly, and it is every year it should be done properly, and otherwise there will be different. So you have to verify, and accordingly you can calibrate this also. And installation consideration also, you have to follow the WMO standards. Whatever way they are telling, it should be followed properly. There should not be any trees and other things, or no walls and other things are obstructing. Whatever is there, it should follow. Even if something is there, it should be following the rule in which it is to be installed. And maintenance of the rain gauge is very important, because always debris will get collected, leaves, insects, all these things will get collected. It should be cleaned properly. Tipping bucket should be smooth, otherwise it will not be moving freely. So all these things should be well maintained. With this, we are ending today's lecture, both the thing telemetry as well as the inflow forecasting.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for nice presentation. Now, I request participants, if you have any doubt, any question, kindly freely ask to our speaker, or if you wish, you can write down in the chat box. We will answer one by one all your questions. Please.
Sir, I think.
Good morning,
Sir,
sir.
we are ending now.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Naveen Singhal, kindly ask your question, please.
Sir, you told about the bubbler water leveler. Sir, in hilly areas, there is a lot of debris travel during monsoon. Is it safe for that reason or not?
In bubbler, generally hilly areas, we prefer radar levels only, because it is contactless. Because bubbler means you have a bubbler termination point that gets washed away if a debris or a tree or something comes. So you may not be able to get a good water level record. So wherever bridges are there, it is preferred that we keep radar level sensor near the bridge, or in case if there is no bridge also, a cantilever beam can be built with a structure nearby the bank, and from there you can measure the radar level. Radar level is now being frequently used CWC is following radar levels only. Most of the places they have changed from bubbler technology because a lot of sedimentation also occurs in the plain areas. In hilly areas, the problem of this debris as well as trees and other things falling. So it is creating problems. So everywhere we are trying to change to radar level.
Sir, there is any guideline issued by the CWC regarding this?
And as it is, we are telling it is better wherever you are having in our general what we call tender specification and other things which you are circulating to all the state governments also under NHP. We are telling that it is better you can keep radar level sensor wherever bridges are available, or a small structure can be built in such a way that it is not costing too much on the tender, so that they can use radar for that particular place.
So in case of we install the radar based sensor under the bridge due to vehicle movement, due to vibration, there is any accuracy problem or not?
No, actually, it is better directly don't keep the radar below the road surface itself, that is in the bridge itself. A small cantilever of about 5-10 meters can be built, and from there it can take them. Generally, we are not facing any big problems with that.
Okay, sir. Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, what accuracy of radar level?
Hello? Yes?
Yes, sir, accuracy of radar level.
Radar accuracy is similar to that of bubbler level also. It is 0.003 feet.
Yes, sir, bubbler level also mainly is a flood control board. So how to measure the flood in river, other dams?
Your this thing is getting cut. You can put it in chat box so that director can tell me what is that. It is cutting.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hello.
The next question is from Dr. R. Satyanathan. Which recording rain gauge is mostly used by IMD or CWC? Lakshmi Narayan sir.
Yes, sir. What is that, sir?
Which recording rain gauge is mostly used by IMD or CWC?
Both of them we are using through telemetry. We are using tipping bucket rain gauge only.
Okay, thank you. Next question, please. Sir, next question is from Mukesh Kumar Kewal. What is in radar in FFM?
Radar in
FFM.
FFM.
Yes, Mr. Mukesh Kumar, kindly ask your question, please. Mr. Mukesh Kumar Kewal, kindly ask your question, please. Mr. Mukesh, are you there? Mr. Kewal? Okay. Next question is from Mohammad Saeed Mir. Lakshmi Narayan sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How precise the rain gauge used by the Central Water Commission, and on what is the basis of rain gauge established installed?
We are the sensitivity of the rain gauge, as you know, is as per whatever the installation thing they have given. That is, each and every company has their own sensitivity. This thing, but mostly we are having the least resolution is 0.2 mm, and the accuracy is again a misnomer to which we are going to calculate whether we are going to compare it with the actual rainfall that is occurred through and measured through standard rain gauge, or what is happening, because what happens is even within a city itself, one place is getting rain, another place is not getting rain. So if I am telling that in my rain gauge it has rained 100 mm and it is not there anywhere else, it is a point rainfall, so that may be a wrong reading. But the other place is having 40 mm and here it is 70 mm, then we can say that this is right or this is wrong. So automatically we should make some sort of an arrangement that if everywhere rainfall is there, then 40 or 70 does not make big difference. we can take it as correct also. In that way, we have to do it.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next question is from Muhammad Saeed Mir. What is radar system used in CWC rain gauges?
CWC, actually radar system is installed by IMD, Doppler radar system and other things. They have a specific way of measuring what is the rainfall by having some equations with the intensity of the cloud signals. So based on that, they arrive at a how much amount of rainfall intensity is occurring at this particular instantaneous time when the radar is operating. So we don't have anything directly. CWC does not have any radar rain gauge and other things. Whatever radar rainfall is given, it is given by the Doppler weather radars installed by IMD.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next question is from BR Punia. Why predictions differ as announced daily basis by IMD?
Actually, this should be asked to IMD. Prediction, because we cannot comment too much on this. So
Yes,
IMD can comment on this.
Yes. Okay, sir. Next question is from Lakshman Shrikant. Can you please throw some light on any telemetry systems for landslide?
Landslide, through landslide, actually landslide is actually looked at by GSI, Geographical Survey of India, and CWC monitors what the dams which are, for example, in Himalayan regions, if a landslide occurs, there is a sort of a lake formed behind the landslide. It blocks the flow of the river. So in that case, once the dam breaks, that is artificial dam created by the landslide breaks, then it leads to instantaneous flood. To measure this type of floods which are caused by landslide dams, we have got this type of both radar level sensors as well as bubbler sensors installed in downstream in the hilly regions. For example, in Ladakh region, there was a landslide in one of the rivers in 2015, where we measured the water level after the landslide breach. It occurred somewhere in 2015 May. There was a rise of almost about 12 to 15 meters downstream of the landslide dam, which we were monitoring in the Ladakh region, that is near the Leh and other places. That was monitored in 2015.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Dr. R. Satyanathan. Are Central Water Commission following 518 square kilometer as the area density for rain gauge?
Actually, rain gauges are installed as per WMO standards, and we cannot fully, because as you know, the cost of the rain gauges and other things are also increasing. Almost a simple rain gauge itself with the telemetry, it is costing about 7 lakhs. So we make some compromise here and there so that the entire catchment area of a particular river is covered whenever in both the sides, that is both on the left bank as well as on the right bank, most of the catchment area is covered. And this rain gauge system, whatever we are collecting from this telemetry, is directly fed, can be utilized directly into the model. In such a way, it has been designed. Not necessarily directly we are following the WMO standard of 518 square kilometers or something like that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next question is from Muhammad Saeed Mir. CWC is used automatic. 1 minute. CWC is used automatic flood gauges on what stream is working. Is any system used to predict the landslide in any? Please send me link of the landslide prediction.
Landslide prediction is done by GSI, Geographical Survey of India. they have a separate gsi.gov.in. If you go, you can see the landslide prediction and other things. They have got various guidelines and other things, how a landslide can be predicted or how it can be mitigated. All these things are available in their website, gsi.gov.in.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Mr. Guru Murthy. During flood flow, forecast estimate in CWC website shows dangerous situation. What are the precautions to be taken?
Precautions generally to be taken are whenever you are near the river, you try to avoid going into the river front. And secondly, whenever the water is entering into the floodplains, it is better that if any constructed buildings are there, it is better to evacuate those buildings. So because there is every chance that the building may get submerged, or because if it is there in floodplain, it can be continuously there for about maybe a day or two. Then in that case, there will be a lot of submergence inside the buildings also. It is better to evacuate all these fellows, all these who are there along the rivers. Otherwise, it is better to avoid the river front during the danger level floods.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next question is from Muhammad Sufian. What is the most accurate rain gauges recording systems and at what frequency radar systems work?
This actually rain gauge, we are having the tipping bucket rain gauges. Tipping bucket rain gauge has an accuracy of that is a resolution of 0.2 mm. Some of them are 0.2, some of them are 0.5. So depending on your use, in whether 0.5 is enough or 0.2 is required. For climatological purposes, 0.2 may be required. But for this river level prediction and other things, 0.5 mm is more than enough. So we are using 0.5 mm in CWC. Radar, as I told, radar we are basically using it for water level measurements only. We don't use it. Rainfall, whatever is predicted through radar or estimated through radar is given by IMD through their Doppler weather radars.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question is from Mr. Shimpi Jitendra. What are the criteria for installation of rain gauge station in a big city like Mumbai, Pune, and Delhi?
This again, what they are following is they are following a different type of norms. It is not directly linked with WMO this guidelines and other things. How much areas are likely to be inundated? Where with the heavy rainfall, they have already identified such type of areas, and they try to cover all these areas with a good tipping bucket that is automatic rain gauges.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Dr. R. Satyanathan. In snowfall region, which rain gauge is generally used?
Snow gauges are used. Snow gauges, and there are other various other instruments like snow pillar, snow gauge. So many things are there. All these are also used. Other than routine rainfall measurement will not be this standard tipping bucket rain gauge may not be of much use to measure the snow. We have different snow gauges, snow pillars. So many things are there.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question is from Muhammad Saeed. Why predictions are differed by IMD and what is accuracy?
This again, this is to be taken from IMD only. So and for CWC, whenever we are giving water level forecast, we are generally following the statistical methods, which is having 6 to 12 hours travel time, morning time only. We follow the accuracy of plus minus 15 centimeters in the case of level forecast and plus minus 20% in the case of reservoir forecast. Suppose if my level forecast is, say, for example, in Delhi, I am forecasting today I am telling that the Delhi water level at Old Railway Bridge will be coming to 204.60 tomorrow. And if the actual level is between 204.45 and 204.75, then it is taken as correct. That is, it should be plus minus 15 centimeter from the forecasted level. Way, if I am forecasting 10,000 cubic, then if the actual inflow is between 8,500 cubic and 12,500 cubic, it is taken as correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. Friends, next question, please. Any
sir.
more questions?
Sir, good
Yeah,
morning,
you
sir.
ask, please. Yes.
Sir, some 2-3 points, sir. Bubbler, what you have recommended, CWC is still using Bubbler, sir, because Bubbler is a technology which is not recommended. We can have a pressure sensor instead. The same thing can be done. So why should it be recommended, sir? People will be confused.
No, bubbler, nowadays we are specifically telling to transfer to radar.
Okay.
Wherever it is possible, they should go to radar sensor.
Okay.
Otherwise, also some structural measure they can make it and make radar as the main.
Okay.
We are totally, because already existing bubblers are there. In one jump, we cannot change everything to radar. So we are slowly converting everything. Whenever any station is getting decommissioned, we are replacing it with radar.
Yeah, not the existing one, at least the new installation we should not recommend.
We are going for radar only.
Yes, sir. And another one, sir, this insert stations, ground control stations, you had in Jaipur and Delhi only, no?
Jaipur, Delhi, and another one mirror server is there for Jaipur server. It is there in Burla in Odisha.
Okay, this can cover whole complete Indian territory, all stations, is it?
Actually, all the stations, because each and every there is because in 1 hour we can get a maximum of 1,800 stations only, maximum. That is 3,600 seconds. So 1 hour we can have 3,600 seconds. That means there is a redundancy. That means 1,800 and 1,800 stations can be. One station will be transmitting twice in a day. So 1,800 stations can be put in one particular hour. That means we can have 1,800 stations in a particular frequency in a particular time interval of 1 hour. So accordingly, we are managing up to 1,800, and we have got frequencies allotted by ISRO and IMD. So they allot the frequency. So for CWC, they have allotted 2 frequencies. That means we have got 1,800 plus 1,800, 3,600 stations around. So we have got a frequency of one is 402.73 megahertz, another is 402.79 megahertz. This is uplink towards the satellite. So 402.73 is having 1,800 stations, and 402.79 also will be having 1,800 stations. So we can cover up to 3,600 stations in a particular time.
Sir, this frequency is allotted throughout India or for that site specific?
And first of all, we have to identify all the stations, and then we have to give the latitude, longitude, and altitude to IMD, telling that in this place I have to install my station, and the X station is located at these points. If we tell all these things, then they will give the what frequency you will be transmitting and what is the time slot allotted. For example, for a particular station, it will be transmitting at 9 minutes 20 seconds. So it will be transmitting only at 9 minutes 20 seconds for the first pulse. The second pulse will be after half an hour, 39 minutes and 20 seconds. All these are already formulated. First of all, before starting installation, we should write to IMD telling that we have to install all these things. Then they will give the number of the station. Then they will give the time of allotment and the frequency to be used.
Okay. So the last question, from your experience, since INSAT is a one-way communication, what is the rate of success? Like, whether you missed any data or what is the rate of success in INSAT?
The rate of success as it is when we were in that what you call one cyclone hit in Chennai. The entire Nellore belt and other things were having very heavy winds, almost about 200 kilometers per hour. And all the 5 sites which are working, that work at that time. But the problem is, there are many other issues which are involved in this. For example, bubbler. we were having bubbler. So bubbler is not working. That means water level will not transmit. Even though it can withstand all the winds and other things, the Yagi antenna is withstanding all this pressure, wind speed and other things, and it is transmitting. But the actual water level, if it is not transmitting, then even if the work it is working but without any use. Like that, there are so many things. But rainfall, wherever it is working, it gives very good. Even during the highest flood in 2009, we had a very big flood in Krishna Basin. At that time, many of the stations had reported rainfall until they were submerged. So until they were submerged, it was reporting very good rainfall. Water level, because it was working, some of the stations have very good record about the HFL also.
So my last question, since INSAT is very good, why you went for VSAT, sir?
No, VSAT is for internal transmission. INSAT is for this transmission of the raw data, and it is coming to a particular place, what you call X station. From Delhi, again, I have to send it to Dibrugarh. How can I send that to Delhi to Dibrugarh? It can be either through internet or through, you can send it by email, or you can send it through VSAT. VSAT is a two-way communication. In that way, and the data also, and you can have voice transmission also. So in that way, VSAT has been used additionally in parallel. This data is coming to Earth station. From Earth station to different modeling centers, only we are using VSAT.
Thank you so much. Very, very wonderfully explained. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, next question is from Mr. Shimpi Jitendra. Which method is more accurate, isohatal or Thyssen method in case of city area?
Isohatal is again, as you see, it is going to be the you are drawing the isoheights. Either your ArcGIS is drawing, or you manually you are drawing the isoheights. Thyssen again is you are dividing the Thyssen into polygons and selecting the area. This again is done either by ArcGIS or this thing. Depending on the density, Thyssen will be better if you have a highly dense network of rain gauge. If it is only one or two stations, then you have to go for isoheight.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Muhammad Saeed. What is the difference between the flood gauge adopted by Central Water Commission and procedure adopted by Central Water Commission? I think Mr. Muhammad Saeed, please ask your question. Mr. Saeed?
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Saeed.
हाँ जी,
Yeah, you ask your question. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You ask your question.
My question is, what is the difference between two flood gauges adopted by the CWDC? If one is adopted at the difference of 1 kilometer and another 1 kilometer, what is the procedure adopted between the two? If we adopt one more flood gauge in between this. Hello.
Yes, Lakshmi Narayan sir.
Well, actually, what is the difference between flood gauges? I am unable to understand his question properly, but what I feel is what he is. Yes, please.
Sir, my question is, if we adopt one flood gauge at any situation, another is far from 1 kilometer. If we able to
Yes. What I am
and what is the procedure for adopting the flood gauges?
I understand what you are asking. For example, I have shown one diagram in my lecture that two stations are there. One is having bubbler separately and rain gauge is far away. So in that case, what we have to do is, if it is more than 1 kilometer, Then suppose the building where you are installing the DCU is more than 1 kilometer from the bank of the river. Then in that case, you can put a bank in the bank, you can put a data collection unit separately. And then in rain gauge, you can put it in your office, which is more than 1 kilometer. Only condition is it should be line of sight. There should not be any in between interferences like buildings or trees or anything. Just you can keep one antenna here and another antenna here for line of sight communication. It is done by using ultra high frequency communication. So it will come in line of sight from 1 kilometer to other kilometer, that is to your office. From there it will be sent to satellite. So there will be only one satellite antenna, but two DCUs will be there, data collection units will be there. One in your office, another near the river bank. The river bank will be collecting the DCU that will be collecting only the river level. Here in this DCU, both the river levels as well as which is collected from that will be transmitted by the ultra high frequency and received by this DCU, which is having Yagi antenna. And rainfall also will be collected and taken here, and that will be sent to the satellite. So in that way, if the distance between your office and the river bank is more than 1 kilometer, you can use two different type of data collection unit, one for water level only, one for both this rainfall and water level together. Water level will be measured and that will be sent by ultra high frequency to the DCU, which is installed inside your office.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next question is from V.S. Ramarao. How the rainfall loss accounted for wind velocity at the location?
This also IMD can explain very clearly, because when
Okay.
there are some various calibration equations are there for that.
Okay, next question, please. Any more questions? Okay, now we will conclude session. Okay, thank you, sir. On behalf of National, yeah, any question? Okay, on behalf of National Water Academy, I am giving sincere thanks to Shri S. Lakshmi Narayan. He has delivered continuously in last 2 days about 3 sessions with very patiently and speak on about topics in very detail. Almost all topics has been covered from all practical point of view. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay,
Thank
friends.
you.
Our next session will be afternoon session at 3 o'clock, and the topic will be hydrology and rainfall runoff modeling and overview of flood modeling. Our speaker will be Piyush Kumar. Presently, he is working as a Deputy Director in Central Water Commission, New Delhi. Okay, friends, thank you. We will meet at 3 o'clock. Okay, thank you.